Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine, and today is a special episode because I am reaching out for the moms, the women who want to be moms, or the potential moms, the future moms. If mom is in your future, this is a podcast I encourage you to listen to. Our guest today is Misha. She is currently an NDTR and has her Bachelor's of Science in Food and Nutrition from the University of Alabama. She's spent her time working in private practice, long-term care, and clinical, and has a specialty in focusing on health coaching and understanding and knowing supplements. But what makes this episode even more special for the moms is that if you've been in dietetics for a day, you know that it's filled with women. And so women, we have this challenge of figuring out if we want to be a stay-at-home mom or if we want to pursue our career, or can we do both? And that's something that will come up for you if you do decide to have children. And Misha was working as a DTR. She did all of the work to get the credential and then made the hard self-sacrificing decision to take time to be a stay-at-home mom. So Misha's going to share her career story. And if you're in a similar situation or thinking about that in the future, please listen to the story and see how she's doing and see how she's doing it. And she also is currently looking to get back into the field. So really, really beneficial spotlight. Let's meet Misha. Misha.
Hi, hello. Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. When I saw you on LinkedIn, I saw you worked at Natural Grocers, and then you told me your story. I was like, yes, we need to hear everything about your journey as an NDTR and see where you are. So can we start off though, from the beginning? How did you even find out about the NDTR credential?
Yeah, to give just like a little bit of a backstory, so from childhood, I grew up like in a really health conscious household. My mom was always dieting, which I know is kind of like a cringe word for like registered dietitians and people in the field, but it gave me exposure because she always had books around the house and she always had like shows that were on that were nutrition oriented. And then on the other spectrum, my dad was really into nutritional supplements. So, like when we got sick as a kid, we wouldn't go up to, the grocery store and get over the counter medicine. We would go to our local hippie natural grocery store and get, vitamin C or echinacea or elderberry and tons of other herbs, and so I kind of grew up with that atmosphere. And then kind of fast forwarding after high school, I always knew I wanted to go to college, and I was really into naturopathic medicine at the time. And so I went to a seminar, kind of like an orientation for people that want to become naturopathic physicians. And they had a list in one of the pamphlets, they had a list of bachelor degrees that you could get your bachelor degree in. And so that's when I stumbled across dietetics. So I had never heard of dietetics like prior to that. And so I read about it and I kind of read the description. And I was like, oh, wait, this is what I want to go to school for. So ever since then, I enrolled and graduated. I did, as I'm sure we all know, I did the, meeting the grade point average, volunteering, having a certain amount of work hours, letters of recommendation, all that, yada, yada, yada. And I applied for several internships to become a registered dietitian because that was my initial goal. However, I wasn't accepted or even called for an interview for the three that I applied for. So I basically from there kind of just went out into the workforce, and I was kind of just had the mindset of how could I be more competitive to reapply in the future. And I was out in the workforce, and then I reached back out to my academic advisor and I had said, hey, like I really, kind of want to apply in the future. What would you recommend? And she had told me, hey, what I would do is study for your DTR, take the exam, get your credential, and work in the field for a little bit. Get your feet wet, see if you'd like it. It gives you a good idea if you even want to be a registered dietitian. So I kind of went that route. And so I was working a lot of hours at the time, and I basically gave myself 6 months to study. And kind of drew out my own curriculum and, days that I could study while I was working, went and took the exam, passed my first time. And then from there, I went to get experience as a register as a DTR. I got hired on as a hospital as a DTR, and it kind of gave me experience and an understanding of what DTRs do in a clinical setting.
Wow, that was a lot. That's so cool to find out about dietetics through naturopathic kind of set point. And then, yeah, that internship, that's tricky, but I'm happy that I mean, your story still progresses. It doesn't stop and you don't get accepted into an internship. And so passing on the first try, congrats. That's hard to do. For
Yeah.
sure. You said you built your own curriculum or did you use a software? How was that building up this curriculum to study?
Yeah. So, one thing that might be helpful for future DTRs and people that are watching this is I don't do Facebook myself, but at the time I had to have a Facebook when I was in school. So I had found a DTR exam study group, and that was super beneficial in studying for the DTR exam. So in that, I kind of was talking to people and networking with people in the group, and I decided to basically, since I was working a lot of hours at the time, I gave myself like set amount of times to study, so I knew what days I had. I guess basically kind of like when you're in school, they give you like, okay, you go to school at Monday from 9 to 10, and this is what you study the subjects on this day. Like I was determined to try to pass that DTR exam. So I told myself, okay, 6 months. And then from there, I was like, okay, I can't remember the specific days, but I was like, Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m., we're going to be, cracking open the books. And so I kind of just in that sense kind of just really outlined and carved everything out for me to kind of be successful when I took the exam.
That's a good strategy just to have that set time to just dig into all of the things that you learned for 4 years to be able to produce it on a test with crazy questions. But so you started the job in clinical. So kind of walk us through how you found that, how you applied for that, and that experience.
Yeah. So I think I can't remember who you've interviewed before, but kind of bouncing off what they had said. I'm in Arizona, and NDTR, DTR positions are kind of held by a lot of seasoned employees. So people that have been doing the job since, way before I was even knew about dietetics. So they kind of hold those positions. But what they do is a lot of the hospitals and care centers, they'll hire NDTRs as kind of backups, so like per diem work. And that's what I was applied for, because I was working as like a health consultant at the time, but I had opened up some days where I was available to work as a diet technician for the hospital that I was hired for. And it was mainly just if people were out sick, on vacation, not available to work basically. So I was trained for the position and, worked some, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity for full-time hours. And that's kind of what I've ran into here in Arizona with a lot of the jobs that I've applied for. And I know that somebody you've interviewed spoke to that once, and I was like, oh, that's the same situation here in Arizona. But so I did get enough experience where it was insightful and it gave me a great idea of what the job was like. And I kind of chose to take more of a health coach route from then, which I do think that the NDTR experience and credential does help in. But I kind of went a different route from there.
Yeah. And so the different route sounds like it was just because of the lack of work for specific that are specifically designed for an NDTR position, which is definitely something that's a struggle for NDTRs, unfortunately, and I hate that. But it sounds like you were able it sounds like when life gives you lemons, you make delicious lemonade.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
You found health coaching. So, and you were doing that before you got into the clinical realms. You were saying,
Mhm.
what got you into health coaching and how did you find pave a path for yourself there?
Sure. So when I was studying for the DTR exam, I was working for kind of like a reputable weight loss company at the time, and I found out that I really liked it. I love sitting one on one with clients and or customers, patients, whatever the term you want to use. I love sitting down one on one with a, a customer and discussing basically kind of helping them set goals, and not only goals but like achievable goals that are realistic, just because I felt like I made more of an impact in that position personally than I did in the clinical route. And that just could be because I didn't have enough experience. There wasn't enough hours for me to accumulate in the typical NDTR setting. But I do think I've used a lot of my skills as an NDTR in the setting of like a health coach, because I think a lot of the things that you use and the terminology and things like that come is really beneficial in that setting as well.
Yeah. And so my question for you, coming from that health coach perspective and then that NDTR credential, because you don't have to be an NDTR to be a health coach, but you mentioned that it was helpful for you. So what can you elaborate on that? Like what aspects did the NDTR credential come in and help you? And did it prevent you from giving bad information? Do you have any stories or kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. So I think the exam that you take to become an NDTR and the material that you have to review is pretty wide range. Like it's wide spectrum. I mean, there's a coaching portion. There's medical nutrition therapy. There's things that that you can't say, that is just that's better left to a registered dietitian. And I think that being a health coach, you are kind of limited in things that you can say and tell people. And having that background in the education that I've had, I think has been really helpful in the health coach and health consultant realm, because you kind of know when to put the brakes on, where it's better left for a registered dietitian, or when you need to know to refer someone out. It and kind of knowing that even though you may feel like you might know the answer, you aren't credentialed, and there's lots of legal liabilities and things like that. So I think that having that credential and the schooling and things like that is really helpful in that realm, because you do have to be careful. That people are registered dietitians for a reason, because there's unfortunately there's legal things that are attached with when you meet with somebody, and you have to think about that. And if you don't have the liability insurance and the correct training to deal with that issue, you shouldn't be speaking on it. So I think that it was really helpful in that realm, that I just kind of helped people with their more goals, and then just basic nutrition education.
That shows just how intelligent you are, because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So it's and so that's huge. It sounds maybe you might, if audience listening might be hearing that and be discouraged in that, but that just shows such a high level of intelligence. Because even as a dietitian, as what I am currently, there's spaces where I'm like, I don't know. And I have to refer to another dietitian or I have to refer to a doctor. So no level is going to get you to that space where you know everything. So, and then when you're smart enough, you know that. So I think that's huge. I love that you just know what you don't know. And so you had that great health coaching experience, that one on one. And I think that's great. That's when you can see the change that you're making in patients' lives or customers or clients, whoever you're working with. And so you also mentioned that you have experience with supplements. So where did you that was your initial interest in the field, or your father, you said that. Where did working with supplements come into play in your career?
Sure. Yeah. So, like as I've mentioned before, like growing up, I had that introduction to nutritional supplements from my dad, and I've been using them all the way up until my life now. And I remember when I was, 7 years old, we were at a, you know, health food store, and that's no longer around. And I remember it was like my dream to work there when I was little. I was like, I want to know what all these things are and what they do. And but anyway, kind of fast forwarding to the in my adulthood, that's what I did during while I was going to school for food and nutrition. Is I A lot of my experience, I worked with nutritional supplements, and I got a lot of great insight and benefit from doing that. For instance, when you go into a health food store, um, a lot of the people that work in there may not be degreed people, but they are regularly trained on nutritional supplements, and they're required to have certain educational trainings throughout the time that they're employed there. And that kind of helped when I was in school, because it kind of helped ingrain, like, what does vitamin C do? Why is it important? Why do we need it in our diet? Why is zinc important, etc.? And so I know that's not a traditional route for NDTRs, but there are a lot of opportunities with nutritional supplements. When I worked at health food stores, for instance, if you pick up a bottle of vitamin C in a health food store and you notice the brand, there's most likely a representative of that brand. And a lot of those representatives, they like to have people that are experienced and degreed in nutrition, and that have some sort of background in nutrition. Because if you use a nutritional supplement, like, they kind of want you to have an understanding of the functions of that supplement and how it supports the body. And I know that in our field, that sometimes supplements is kind of looked down upon, because we should get most of our stuff from food, right? And which I completely agree, but there's a lot of um dysfunctions, or there's a lot of, basically, I can't think of the word, things that might require somebody to take a nutritional supplement. For instance, if someone's anemic, they might need iron, or if they've had gastric bypass, they're not able to process certain nutrients, so they might need to take a supplement. So having a background and understanding of that, I think, is super important, and what a lot of the employers look for in that realm. So if you are an NDTR and you're looking, maybe you don't like clinical, or you can't find a job in clinical, then that is another route for you to take.
I 100% agree with you. I myself personally was kind of anti supplements for a while, because I was like, you just can't get them. You can get everything from food. Like, that's honestly what you're taught in school. And I think there's a lot of truth to it. But being in the field, I've seen patients who get vitamins tested and they're deficient. And it's scary because you think that they are, but the food quality is decreasing. And um, when I look at patients and I do full, like, really deep diet recalls, I see that they're lacking things. If they remove dairy or they remove something, like, where's the calcium? So I think it's so beneficial and great that you brought up the conversation of supplements. We shouldn't stray away from it. And NDTR should definitely take the opportunity in this gap in dietetics where, it's being looked bad upon, and learn the knowledge of it and what you can do with it. So as an NDTR and working in the field, how did you navigate that supplement conversation within your scope of practice as an NDTR, and with the back inner voice saying supplements, you don't need them, you don't need them?
Definitely. Yeah. So my last position, I worked for a health food store, and they had phenomenal training, very strict training on HIPAA, things that we can say, cannot say, things like that. And, you know, supplements support functions of the body, and then if someone comes into a supplement store or a health food store, and they're looking for a particular supplement, they're looking for it to support a specific function of their body. So you're not technically giving nutritional advice if they seek that out. Um, and it it's nice because it gives you an opportunity to help the person, because they obviously are in need of that and their body is in need of that in some way. But it also gives you insight on knowing what that supplement actually helps with and why it's so important that we try to get it in our diet. And like you mentioned, there's so many people that like, they might adopt a gluten-free diet, and so they're deficient on certain B vitamins that aren't fortified in the gluten-free flour and things like that, or they adopt uh any sort of diet that is kind of that people might adopt. They might be deficient in certain things that they need a supplement for, and then there's also health conditions as well that might require that also.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's an important conversation. And I mean, even with intermittent fasting, people are not eating the 3 meals a day as much anymore. So are they even getting what's recommended? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to it. And I think it's a great window of opportunity for NDTRs. So you have this experience, we kind of learned your career, and then you made the decision to be a stay-at-home mom. So can you walk us through those pros, those cons? What made you decide that for all of the mothers and future moms listening?
Yeah. So I have been a stay-at-home mom now for about a year and a half. I gave birth to my son and my first child, and so it was me and his father decided that it was in our best interest to take time to spend that crucial, at least a year with him, in that crucial time where he's learning so much and all those milestones. Like I didn't want to miss out on that. So I took off work, and it was really hard because I am super passionate. You know, in our field and helping people to achieve a better quality of life, but that's that's kind of the route that I chose to go into. I do think that having my background has been really helpful in having a child because I'm very aware of the things that he eats, and I'm like, okay, he probably needs more of this, and I try to think of how I can, is he getting enough zinc and things like that, and so having the background in food and nutrition has really helped me just for his benefit, and that delicate time where he's building his brain cells and growing and needs all these, this, nutrition that we don't think of. Like I want to make sure that he's got the best, optimal brain that's functioning,
Yes,
um,
all the fatty acids, right?
yes, fatty
Yeah.
acids, yes, the
Omega 3.
EFAs,
Yes.
all of that, the DHA. And so having that background, not only did it help me in my work back, my work life, but it's also transitioned into, motherhood is like, knowing like, are you taking care of yourself? Are you getting enough nutrients? Are you eating right? Is your family eating right? Because we all need to function as a family and be healthy and make sure that we're getting, the nutrients that we need through diet and just so we can thrive and be, the best human beings that we can be.
Yeah, that's so I love that you mentioned the nutrition for yourself too and the son because you just had the baby and all of the things that go all the extra needs with growing kids and then pregnant and postpartum women is just huge. And so you said the decision was hard, but you made it. So a year and a half later, how are you where are you now? Are you looking to go back? Are you thinking you're going to stay? What's going on now?
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking to get back into the workforce. I miss it a lot. Me and my son's father have kind of talked about going back on a part-time basis, so where I can still spend this crucial time with my son and helping him, before he's in elementary school, spending quality time with him, but then also getting back into the workforce and offering, um, you know, things that I have to offer there. So it's kind of I'm kind of looking to get back in on a happy medium, like on a part time basis, but then at the same time, still have time as a stay at home mom.
Yeah. And so with the switch, there's so many different fields and aspects in nutrition and so many different populations you can work with. And so I feel like you've had a year, you were a stay-at-home mom, but you've also had a year and a half as a DTR working with postpartum and child nutrition firsthand, hands-on, right in front of you. And so has your focus or desires or goals in nutrition changed with the experience of being a stay-at-home mom?
Yes, I would say so a lot of my experience has been in weight loss. And I have found that being a stay-at-home mom and kind of taking that year and a half off, I've kind of seen where my passion lies. And I I kind of lean more towards behavioral and mental health. For instance, like when you are a stay-at-home mom, there's, you miss a lot of sleep. Your body's very depleted of a lot of nutrients. It's there's a lot of challenges, and I found that I have a much bigger focus on the basically the crucialness of mental health. And so I kind of hope to go back into the field like on a mental health basis, but focusing more on nutrition. Just because when I've taken this time off, I really have to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep, that I'm exercising, that I'm doing things for my own self so I can be a good mom myself, and also making sure that my son's okay also. And so kind of that focus on mental behavioral health with a nutrition focus is kind of where I plan to go in the future. And yeah, so that's kind of where I plan to go.
That's wonderful, Misha, especially with your knowledge of supplements, because I feel you can correct me if I'm wrong, and people can comment if they have input too, but the mental health of the world, and then nutrition has such a big play on that. And nutrition deficiencies can really highlight those and exacerbate those mental health issues if you're not eating the right food, sleeping, everything you're saying. And so again, another really important and emerging field that needs to be addressed for everyone. And then you can also choose your population, but I think that is very admirable that you want to go into that, because that is hard.
Definitely, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so how is, I'm scared to ask this question, but I know the audience is going to want to know, how
Yeah.
has the job search been? How has been getting back into it? Kind of tell us all the nitty gritty, what's going on there.
It's pretty difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Just taking that year off, I just feel like I can only imagine women that have taken like a few years off. Like it's really hard getting back in from what I've experienced. But kind of tying back to the NDR credential, I do think having that title and that credential behind your name, and employers, if they take the time to kind of research what we do, because I know a lot of people have no idea,
Yeah.
um, like NDTRs, that what NDTRs do. I think it does help a lot. So if you're thinking about getting your NDTR, I do think it's helpful in the long run, and having that credential tied to your name, because there it is definitely a struggle getting back in. But I have had interviews, and I have been slowly it's been looking up, and so hopefully that sometime soon I'll land something. But I do think having an education and a credential behind your name kind of lets an employer know, okay, this person is capable.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think when you have it yourself, you don't fully understand how beneficial it is. But when you talk to somebody who doesn't have any of those things, they immediately are like, I wish I went back to school, or I want to go back to school, which it shouldn't be that way. But that's, the credentials speak a lot. They speak a lot. They speak up for you. So I wanted to ask too, I worked with a woman who was a dietitian, but in the same field, and she on her resume put stay-at-home mom, so there was no gap. Are you doing that, or what are you doing to explain the gap in your resume? the gap?
No, I actually haven't. I have not put that.
Oh,
But when I as you mention it and I think about it, that actually would be a good thing to put just because I do still use some of the skills that I've learned in schooling and as an NDTR, kind of feeding my son and feeding my family. So I might start putting that actually. And I think that's pretty witty.
yeah, I thought it was a cute idea. I mean, if I do that, I'm definitely gonna be like, listen, I had a baby and I raised the baby and I'm still alive.
Yes.
Counts for something, you know?
It's a lot of work. Like women that are stay-at-home moms like for their whole life, I totally have a whole new respect for them just because it is hard dealing with a human being that doesn't know how to communicate, like it's a lot. So it should be worthy of putting on a resume for sure.
I 100% think so. My sister-in-laws are stay-at-home moms. So when I heard that you were a stay-at-home mom and you left dietetics to do it, or left in quotes, because you still do dietetics with your son and your family, I was very in awe of the decision that you made.
Oh, thank you.
So so give us currently, you said you had some interviews. What keywords are you searching for? What platforms are you using? What's current right now?
Sure. So in my scenario, I've found, like as an NDTR, that I'm very drawn to the health coaching aspect and kind of that one on one client sort of ex- uh, experience, or the term that you would use for that. So I've mainly been looking for like health coaching positions and opportunities where I can work with people specifically on goals, like helping them achieve a certain health goal. Whether that be mental health or, kind of a nutritional health or, uh, diet health, basically kind of helping people achieve um, overall health is kind of what the area that I'm looking to get back into and excited to get back into.
Yes, I love that. And then, so you mentioned some frustrations with the NDTR credential of not people knowing what they are, kind of the job search. Anything else that has just been a little more challenging in your current phase with the NDTR credential?
Um, the frustration was originally when I got the credential, I wanted to work in the field, like get actual like NDTR experience, which I did, but not as much experience as I wanted to, just because the job market, like the just isn't here in Arizona. There's not a lot of opportunity. So I kind of have had more eclectic experience kind of, with supplements and coaching. And even though I have that NDTR credential, it's not, as a typical in an NDTR setting. Other frustrations that I've dealt with is just the fact that nobody knows what it is. Like besides us, I feel like, and why I give you so much kudos for your channel, because you shed light on what the NDTR is, and not, I'll be honest, like I probably 9 out of 10 people that I come across, if I were to pick 10 people like at a grocery store or something, nobody would know what an NDTR is. And so I think that I commend you for this channel because, if somebody's on YouTube and comes across your channel or on a podcast, it kind of sheds light on what we do. And because most people have heard of a registered dietitian, but they haven't heard of NDTR or a DTR. And so that's the other frustration, is having that credential and then having to explain it to people, and then they still might not get it. It's kind of been a frustration, but I do think it's been beneficial to me, like on when I apply for jobs and stuff, because that the employer more than likely will take time to research, okay, what is that, why are they putting that credential behind their name, and it gives exposure to us. And I think that's so important, because the more exposure that we have, the more job opportunities NTTRs are going to have in the future, and that's what we need. And I think that I would like it to expand more outside of clinical, like in other areas as well, like, because right now traditional NDTR positions are all clinical oriented, and I think it would be even more beneficial if we can delve into different areas like private practice and kind of helping, take the slack off of registered dietitian and kind of doing, um, the pre-work before someone sees a registered dietitian. And so yeah, I'm super thankful for your channel and everything that you do for our credential. And I've been watching you ever since, like you started pretty much. And I was just like, yeah, you go, girl, it's awesome. And I really think that that's cool.
Well, thank you. And it's only because NDTRs are willing to take an hour and talk and share with me. So it's all of us coming together and like saying, hey, we're here and we're doing really great things in the field. And so I mean it's a whole joint effort. So I appreciate you saying that and echoing those frustrations. And hopefully, I mean, things are hopefully slowly changing and everything, every like what you're saying with getting out there and even applying for jobs and putting the NDTR in your resume. That is like one step for more people to know what we are. And then your interest with the supplements and the mental health, you stepping out into that is just going to make a nice change for this field. And I do have a lot of hope still in the NDTR credential because, I mean, like you said, not getting into that internship, that's very frustrating. Like, why are there so few internships? It's just very unfair. And nutrition, this field is what's going to save this country from all of the diseases that we have. The westernized diseases are completely preventable with nutrition. And
Yeah.
so this is the field that needs to be out there, and we need NDTRs and dietitians. We need both to just saturate the country and heal our nation.
Yes. Amen.
Right? These terrible sicknesses that people don't need to have. And to know how to talk about supplements, to walk through them with the health coaching and be with them side by side. So yeah, the heart is there. So we just have to keep driving forward
Yes.
and go with it. So
We'll
Misha,
get there. I have hope.
yes, I think so. You're staying in it and I'm staying in it. And so hopefully we'll joint effort, we'll get there. Is there I have two more questions that I would love for you to share if you are still willing to chat with us.
Of course, yes.
You mentioned the start of naturopathic doctor and registered dietitian, and you're an NDTR. So where are you with that? Do you plan on staying and seeing what you can do here? Or is there something in the back itching for you to do a little bit to go in a different direction?
I've always had the long-term goal of becoming a registered dietitian. So eventually, sometime in the future, I'm going to keep trying to pursue that. But I will say that I don't mind just being an NDTR and working as a health coach because I have found a lot of happiness in jobs that I've acquired as where I'm at. So for right now, I'm fine where I'm at, but I do have kind of intention for my future to go back for my RD credential. So kind of right now, I'm just kind of using that NDTR credential, just and I'm fine with that where I am right now. But in the future, I don't know where the future will take me, but I foresee it as going back to becoming a registered dietitian.
Very cool. And I will say, whether you do or not, it'll be cool for a seasoned NDTR to go into that field or to continue in that way, because you'll know exactly what you want to dive into and you'll be
Yeah.
even stronger and be able to navigate those studies well, as opposed to what I find when students do their bachelor's and go right to become a dietitian, then they become a dietitian, they're like, I don't know what I want to what I want to focus on. So
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
always think you come out a little bit higher when you do it this way. It's longer, might be a little more frustrating, but it definitely, I think, is a lot more rewarding. And so, last thing for the audience, from your perspective, is there anything you want to share or leave with the NDTR audience today?
Um, I think if you're having frustrations as an NDTR and not able to find, positions as your traditional NDTR, try looking at other routes. there's other opportunities for you that you might find that kind of helps um, you grow more. That area of nutritional supplements, whether you're working as a sales rep for a particular brand and educating employees at stores, or whether you go the health coaching route and work for, a company helping, people achieve their goals. It's not only just limited to clinical. There is other areas in nutrition where your credential could be super beneficial, that you can actually use your knowledge and your skills to. So just kind of giving that insight of that there is other options for you, because kind of when I graduated, and I wasn't accepted into internships, I went through a pretty low, because I did so much, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like what more can do I need to do? And then I kind of found like, wait, there is still happiness with where I'm at right now. So just kind of expanding your horizon. Some of the people that you've interviewed have done, they're doing private practice. So there's so many opportunities for you if you go out and search for them. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best of luck.
Yes, that is so good, Misha. Thank you for saying that. And you mentioned like sales rep for supplements, and it made me think. I know in my graduating class, there was a dietitian who got a job, and she was a sales rep for some tube feeding. So it's not, people think you have to be a dietitian to do things, but dietitians aren't just in clinical too. So it's exactly what you're saying. We just need to have the same frame of mind and not limit ourselves with the credential. Let
There's
it.
so many opportunities.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, thinking outside the box and expanding the horizons, as you said. That is so, so good. So how can people find you if they want to follow your career and what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not super active on social media, but I do LinkedIn. So if you type in Misha Harris, Misha Harris 7, or if you just put Misha Harris in the search box, there's not that many of me. So I should pop
Well,
up.
how many are there?
I know because I've looked, but no, there, I, there's not that many. You should be able to find me.
Awesome. Yeah. And that'll be fun. You should follow her and see when a job pops up and just say, congratulations, you found one. I'm rooting for you in your career and
Oh.
I always admire. I think you'll never regret that year that you took off for your son. So
I'm super, yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. So yeah, you can get back in there and you can get back into the workforce. It takes a little extra effort, but if you have your credential, it does get you interviews and things like that. So
which is perfect. Well, Misha, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. Make sure you find Misha on LinkedIn, see what she's doing, and expand those horizons. For the NDTR credential, don't be discouraged. There's lots of us out here who are in the field and have a passion for nutrition. And if you are a mom or a stay-at-home mom and you were inspired by her story, let her know. Comment down below. It's just nice to build that community and know that you're not alone. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in another